Hey, this is Mark with the Practical Still. This is kind of Friday Sips Live. Dan and I actually decided not to do a Friday Sips Live today, mainly because it'd been weird the last, 24, 48 hours around here. So I don't know if you saw in the news, but gigantic fire happening in our area. So just north of where Dan lives, just kind of southwest of where I live. Both of us escaped unharmed, which is wonderful. But the community is a little rattled. Almost 600 homes burned. But I just wanted to say, Happy New Year. And talk about two favorite whiskeys and some renewed faith in whiskey geeks. I don't know if you've heard me complaining sometimes that lately the whiskey geeks we're getting too geeky. It's too much about paying too much money for bottles that don't deserve it. It's too much about the hunt, and that just was bugging me. Gosh, today, whiskey geeks came together in this area, and just one little group I watched and participated in raised over 20 grand to help people who lost everything in our area. And that renews the faith a bit. So that's good. We missed last Friday. Didn't want to miss this Friday. Dan's not here with me. He and his wife are having a New Year's Eve date night, which is nice. He doesn't even know I'm doing this. I didn't know I was doing this till a few minutes ago. So hopefully, it means something. It's a good year. It was a good whiskey year. It's a weird whiskey year. Prices continued to go up. But there was two that just meant a lot to me this year that were just, one, the Russell's 13. I think it became my new favorite whiskey of all time. It supplanted the Kentucky Owl Batch 1 Rye, which to date has been my favorite whiskey ever. I still have one of those. I think I'm going to open it because if it's not my favorite anymore, no reason to hang on to it. And I hate it when they become cherished. I hate it when I feel like I've got a bottle on a pedestal. So this guy, super delicious. And then the other one that, and frankly, as I was coming upstairs to do this, which you can tell I'm not in the world headquarters. We'll call this a satellite office, but this is my little office where I work the day job during the day, where I record, produce a lot of the stuff that Dan and I do. So this bottle, the Dickel 15-year-old single barrels, I can't remember if these started in 2021 or maybe the year before 2020, but everybody's got them this year. I think they're tremendous value. I think they're incredibly practical bottles. 15-year-old whiskey for $60, $65. Amazing. Proof ranges widely. I don't know why there's such a huge variance in proof for those, but I've got, 5 or 6 of these downstairs now. Lowest proof's around 84, highest around 104, 105. This one's kind of in the middle. This is a 90 some odd proof one. Let's see, 93.4 proof. Just delicious. So these were my two favorites for the year. This Russell's, specifically this Russell's, was my favorite. And you know what a huge Wild Turkey geek, what a Russell's geek I am. But in this particular one, goodness, this stuff is so good. So good. Yeah, the regular Russell's single barrels are delicious. The single barrel rise, everything Russell's is good. Everything Wild Turkey's good, but this 13-year-old 114.8 proof. Oh my goodness. It's so good. And practically speaking, typically Wild Turkey stuff doesn't bring crazy multiples. This one has. This one is bringing, it's bringing, $400 in the secondary. I paid retail for it, $70. So I think that's practical. It's so good. Look at that color. It's just delicious. I poured too much. I only brought one glass. Now I can't have any of the Dickel, but I'll pour some of that later. So if you get a chance for that Russell's 13, if it's buying a bottle or just a chance to taste it, do not pass that up. That is an amazing bottle. It's $70. It's more than fair. Heck, the The 8 to 9 year old regular bourbon single barrel Russells they're $55, which is an incredible deal, 55 or 60. So don't miss the chance on that one if you get a shot at it. And remember me if you do. Delicious. So if you like Russells, you can't pass that up. And then I think too, Dan and I are both homers for Russells whiskeys, and we're also homers for Dickel. And this Dickel single barrel deal is just amazing. I don't know what happened that they all of a sudden have so much 15-year-old whiskey handy. But, for years, companies like Barrel Bourbon and other non-distilling producers have been sourcing whiskey from Dickel and putting out well-aged Dickel whiskey, of course, under their own label and acting like it's not Dickel. But if it's a 15-year-old whiskey from Tennessee, I think we all know where it came from. So it's kind of cool that Dickel's done this. They've got this these single barrels at 15 years. There's always been the hand selects at 9 years, which are delicious as well. And they're about $50. So you get 6 extra years for just a few dollars more. And these are delicious. And if you're one of those people that never like the Dickel funkiness, I say give this a try. Some of the reviews I read talk about that funkiness still being there in force. I think that the extra age actually tamps some of that funkiness down a little bit. So if that's something that bugged you, I'd still try this. Maybe buy a pour somewhere. Because I think it's delicious. You just don't get a chance to buy 15-year-old bourbons and whiskeys these days for $60. So I think that's awesome. And the other thing is they're all over the place. So a lot of stores have got these. And I think that's excellent. Back to the whole thing with companies like Barrel Bourbon. Will that change the value proposition for those $85 to $100 bottles when they're full of Dickel produced whiskey and MGP whiskey and some undisclosed Kentucky Barton whiskeys? Will it change something for something like Sweeten's Cove? Famous athletes get together. They have a decently aged bottle of Dickel produced whiskey for $200. I don't like football that much or tennis to pay all that extra for that. It's hard to pass those up. So those are my two favorites this year, I think. I think Dan would agree with those. He'd probably still say Booker's because, Booker's is always going to be his favorite, and you can't argue with that. And then, back to the charity thing. A lot of bourbon groups have a charity slant to them, and that's really cool. And it's really nice in this case to see Whiskey Geeks stepping up and not only bidding on the bottles and bidding way too much money on them for the right cause, but also donating. Some of the bottles that have been donated in just this one group, and that's not the only group going on. There's a lot of groups doing stuff like this. Some of the bottles donated are impressive. There's a lot of Stag Junior out there getting donated. There's a lot of rare Smoke Wagon picks getting donated. It renews your faith in Whiskey Geeks when we can get pretty annoying sometimes with that. So it's great to see that when it matters, we can use whiskey as such a positive thing to generate money. And like I said, that one group's going to end up sometime tonight. They're going to more than 20 grand. So it's cool to play along with that and be a little tiny part of it. And I know there's going to be more going. One of the local distilleries, Copper Sky, one of the fellows that's a big part of those blends and the whiskey they produce, Isaac, lost his house. His house burned to the ground, everything in it. So they're going to be doing a barrel pick, and the proceeds of that pick are going to go to help Isaac get back on his feet, which I think is great. Isaac's a super nice guy. All the whiskey people are super nice guys. So Mike Ruth, that owns, is the founder of Copper Sky, is getting together with a couple of great people, noted barrel pickers, local store owners. They're going to pick a barrel. They're going to sell those bottles, and those proceeds are going to help Isaac. I just think that's awesome. I feel much better about being a whiskey geek today. And, it's been a good year. So that's all I wanted to say today. I wanted to have a little fun with whiskey and talk to you guys just briefly and, wish you a happy new year. And I wish Dan was here, but I know he's having a good time with his wife and getting a little decompression going on, which is really useful given what's gone on the last couple of days around here. And look, there's still a global pandemic going on, so it's not necessarily easy no matter where you are. So for those of you guys that have listened and folks that have listened to the podcast that Dan and I do, the Practical Still, that have played along with the videos for the last almost 2 years now, we really appreciate you. And we really appreciate the comments that come, both the ones on the videos and the podcast themselves and the ones that come in separate emails and texts and messages. It's really fun. We hope to do more this year. We hope to do more distillery visits like we did at Deerhammer in 2021. We hope to do more in 2022. We hope to start getting into samples and broadening out what we do. I think, one more thing about 2021, I think it was the year of the smaller craft distillery when Dan and I's eyes were open to such amazing things that are getting done at some of these distilleries. And I think we credit Lenny Eckstein and his wife Amy at Deerhammer in Buena Vista, Colorado for that eye-opening. And he helped me geek out. I like the geeky part of distillation and trying to learn more about that. And he's so open to share things like barrel entry proof and the way he does the cuts in the whiskey. So I think that's another big revelation this year is it's time. It's time to support these craft distillers. It used to be that, craft just wasn't good. They just didn't have scale, but now they're just ingenious and they're doing things that from an experimentation standpoint that the big ones, aren't doing. So find that local distillery in your area. It doesn't have to be in Colorado. There's distilleries all over the country. Find those, work with them. And some of them are sourcing whiskey and doing some really cool things with it. Don't discount it just because they didn't distill it. They do some really creative things with that whiskey. And some of them are, there's one here in Colorado. I haven't ever had any of the whiskey because, frankly, it's a silly reason, but they use malted rye. I don't typically like malted rye. I know a lot of people do. But 291 Colorado whiskey started by a guy named Michael Myers who's a photographer and built his first still out of copper plates that he used in photography. There's some cool stuff going on. So give that a try. It's worth a few bucks extra to invest in that and give it a shot. Dan and I have been shocked and surprised at how good the whiskey is and different. It's just not the same thing. So give that stuff a try and let us know what you're drinking. Let us know if you found some small distilleries and are enjoying it. If you're sticking to the big guns, now we got Dickel putting out 15-year whiskey. We got Jim Beam brought back age statements. I got a 9, 12, and a 15. The world's changing. But let us know what you're drinking. Chime in when we're doing these lives. Check out the videos. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down and reach out. And if you're in Colorado, holler and we'll have a sip together. Cheers.